Tip number 1. Describe using all the senses. I'm sure you're pretty good at describing what you might see in your stories, but what about what you can hear, or feel, or smell, or even taste? The footsteps became louder. Another clump, another shuffle. They were coming closer, now only seconds away. A shivering wind blew on the back of Julia's neck. Her feet splashed through an ice-cold puddle, the water seeping through her shoes and socks, numbing her toes. As the graveyard's decay wafted through the darkness, Tom cupped his fingers over his nose and mouth. The stench seeped through his fingers, making him retch. The acrid mist hovered there, suspended in the room. Each time I breathed, its bitter taste stung my throat. Tip number 2, use non-specific words. You want to keep your readers guessing. Words like something, someone, it, a noise, a voice. These are very non-specific and does leave a lot to your reader's imagination. Compare these two sentences and see which you feel builds the most tension. Something broke the silence. A crack, a crunch. I heard an animal approaching. It's pretty clear that the first sentence builds more tension. The reason for that? It's got more unknowns. In the second sentence, we know an animal is approaching. But in the first sentence, we don't know what has broken the silence. Here's 2 more to compare. I hunched onto my knees and began backing away like a rat escaping a trap. The more I moved, the closer it came, its shadow falling over me. I hunched onto my knees and began backing away like a rat escaping a trap. The more I moved, the closer the guard came, his shadow falling over me. Once again, the first one builds more tension because there are more unknowns. More is left to your reader's imaginations. The more I moved, the closer it came, its shadow falling over me. We're not sure what is coming closer. In the second one, it's pretty clear. It's a guard. Tip number 3. Turn off the lights. Darkness is scary. Compare what your bedroom feels like at night versus what it feels like in the morning. Darkness also forces you as a writer to focus on the other senses apart from what you see. By including sounds, touch, and smells, you add to the tension. The house was cold, but fear burned inside me and a bead of sweat rolled down my face, clinging tightly to my skin. The only friend I had was the moon, its large yellow eye peering through the broken window. But soon, even that had gone. A blanket of dark clouds was thrown over it, and suddenly, darkness. Irene continued to aim her flashlight around the room, looking for clues. All of a sudden, the light began to dim. The batteries? The soft glow became a flicker. For a few moments, it wrestled with the darkness before submitting. Irene shook the flashlight, hoping to restore some life into it, but it was no good. The batteries were dead. She stood motionless in the darkness and listened. It was an unsettling, menacing darkness. A tingling sixth sense warned her not to move. Tip number 4. Don't reveal too quickly. Think about those films that you've seen, the scary ones. The ones where you think something's about to happen, but it doesn't. Well, not yet. Edric continued to explore deeper into the thick forest. Here's tease number 1. It soon occurred to him how eerily silent it had become. No birds, no insects, no wind. He stopped. His heart pounded as if it was trying to escape. Here's tease 2. Crack, crunch. He spun round. Something was approaching. Edric gripped his axe tightly and stared at the thicket of trees in front of him. Here's tease number 3. There was a grunt, a snort, and a bush began shaking just to his right. And now the big reveal. Suddenly out it plunged, a huge, angry wild boar, its tusks aiming at him like swords. Tip number 5. Mention the weather and make it really bad. Ferocious bolts of lightning, relentless rain, howling winds, thick mist or thick fog. The storm grabbed my house in its teeth and wouldn't let go. Rain pelted furiously against the windows, and tiles were peeled off the roof and sent flying like ceramic frisbees. The wind was fierce, gaining in power all the time, until it screamed at the house, beating like a fist against the windows and the walls. Tip number 6. Make lots of references to time. You want the reader to feel that the main character or the main characters are running out of time. He searched desperately for a way to escape. Frantic now. Time was running out. For fatal seconds he stared, unable to think or move, and as he faltered, the jaws of the trap closed around him. Tip number 7. Use some very short sentences. Short sentences give the reader the perception that the pace of the action is speeding up. She had to leave, now. She had seen enough, but she was being pulled to the door handle like a magnet. The hand gripped the cold metal. Twist, creak. She snuck inside. Tip number 8. Use personification. Personification is when you give human-like qualities to objects or things that are not human by nature. The house looked at me as I approached, inviting me to enter its mouth. The trees clawed at me as I passed, the dry leaves whispering my location with every step I took. Finally, tip number 9. Ask 4 questions. Asking questions gets the reader to start making predictions about what might happen next, and this builds suspense. She found a path, a well-walked path. But which way was it going? Out to safety or deeper into the forest? And what made those large, heavy footprints? Trevor dashed to the end of the corridor where he met 3 doors. What if they were locked? What if they weren't? What might lie on the other side? Should he turn back?